Hey, David Brewster here with a new episode of Three for All. This is three Gary Moore licks from 1990, and I've had some requests to feature more of the late, great, legendary, Gary Moore. And I have featured him in a Chordplay. There's a Soloing Secrets and a Three for All from a few years ago. But it was actually last week. I was looking around on YouTube and watching some concerts, and I stumbled on his performance at the Montreux Jazz Festival in 1990, and it just knocked my socks off. I'd seen clips and little bits and pieces, but I just sat here on YouTube and watched it, and he was just grabbing licks and literally shredding and stuff. And it was like, man, why have I never watched this whole concert? And that basically prompted me to make this episode. So if you're a Gary Moore fan, if you've requested, more Gary Moore licks and music, buckle up. Here we go. So honestly, after I saw the 1990 concert, then I started looking around and I realized that Gary performed at the Montreux, Jazz Festival 6 times. 1990, 95, 97, 99, 2001, and 2010 or something like that. But then I started bouncing through the years and watching, various, clips and footage from those different concerts. So it was really interesting to just spend, like a whole day watching Gary Moore play at Montreux Jazz Festival through the years and different sets, different songs. Some songs he repeated. Sometimes a certain guitar would make a reappearance, like, hey, he used that, a few years ago. So it was just a really good, Gary Moore swimming pool, just diving in and really soaking up all that great music. Great stuff. So the licks in this episode actually came from the 1990 Montreux Jazz Festival performance from Gary Moore that I mentioned earlier. And I just locked on to The Stumble. He actually did a cover of Freddie King's classic, The Stumble. I absolutely love Freddie King. I've said that numerous times sitting right here, talking into this camera. But I love Freddie King. And when I saw Gary, performing it and everything, I just locked onto it like, yeah, let's grab licks. Because definitely I'm a huge Gary Moore fan and I absolutely love Freddie King. So it was a no-brainer. Like, yeah. So the licks came from his performance from The Stumble in 1990. So here we go. Okay, the first lick's this tight blues melodic phrasing, and every lick in this lesson is played over a different chord that's found in The Stumble by Freddie King. And this is over E or E7, and it's something like this. One more time. So like I said, this is played over E7, and we're basically starting on the C sharp, bending that up a half step to D. And that's that tight blues phrasing right there, that C sharp to D, and then pick that C sharp like that. And then you're coming back, grabbing that B, that A, and then ended up on that G and kind of smear that too. And then when you do that E, D, E, end on that E with some vibrato right there. And then... And I like the way he ends it there, where he grabs that G, that E to D, and then A to B. So he's kind of switching his fingering around. And then end on that G note and kind of slide it off. So really slow. A little bit faster. And then at tempo. And it's just got this aggressive edge to it, a lot of feel, and that's definitely very typical of Gary Moore's playing style. He just hit every note out of the park and put so much energy into his playing, and that's a good example of that right there. So kind of dig in, pick a little harder, maybe grab those notes with a little bit more authority, and you'll be slowly kind of inching your way toward getting Gary Moore territory, just like that. Okay, next up's this melodic kind of picking workout, and this is played over an A7 chord, and it actually starts with an open D string, and he kind of throws that open D in kind of erratically, like this. One more time. So this is over A7, right over that A chord. And he actually, if you listen very carefully at the very beginning of the lick, you hear the open D string, and then he climbs up chromatically that B, C to C sharp, like this. So slowly. And it's kind of weird to hear that open D out of nowhere, but it's right? And then right there, you're going to go up chromatically, reach over, grab that F sharp, go back to that C sharp, and then hit that open D again, very briefly. And as soon as you hit that open D again, you're going to climb up chromatically again, that B, C, C to C sharp. So really slow. And that's where you alternate to that F sharp to E, and you're using that C sharp like a pivot, like that. So the first part there, kind of slow. And then right there, don't play that open D and do that chromatic, walk up again, that B, C to C sharp. And then you're going to start alternating to that E, F sharp, G, F sharp to E. Like, right? So all the way through it, really slow, it's like this. Right? Cool little busy lick there. And that open D is really random and weird, but it's cool the way it kind of fits and sits in there. It's a pickup note right off the bat, and then he kind of just squeezes it in there. Kind of reminds me of John Sykes a little bit there too, kind of implying that flat 5, even though technically it's not a flat 5 there, but it feels like one though. If you were thinking of like C sharp minor pentatonic, that would be the flat 5. But keep in mind, this is basically the stumble, so we're thinking E. So after that, it would resolve back to E minor pentatonic. Right? So it's over that A7, the 4 chord. Okay, the next lick's this climbing diminished 7 arpeggio idea, and in the stumble, there's actually a section where it goes to a B flat diminished 7, just temporarily. It's like you're doing those hits, like the E to a G to an A, and then that B flat diminished 7. And then it does the turnaround there, like in the song. That kind of thing or whatever, but it's just that one little area where you hear that B flat diminished 7, and that's where he plays this lick right here. One more time. And I like this because he's basically starting on that E and then ending on that G right there. So it's really cool the way he arranged that. Instead of just doing it straight, like, think of somebody like Randy Rhoads that might, have played something like this. Instead of doing the full arpeggio, I like the way where he's starting and the way he's ending on that G. So it's just a little section in that song with that aggressive diminished 7 arpeggio. That's really cool. And it's also showing you how you can sneak stuff like that into a blues tune, just like that. Here's a bonus lick from this live footage, and it's this triple bend kind of Clapton lick, like this. One more time. And this is played over B7 right here. So the 5 chord, and it's this triple bend idea because he's doing the kind of standard, pentatonic bending lick here, and then grab that A note, so the first bend, the second bend, and then the third bend is that sneaky D right there. So there's like a triple bend happening there. 1, 2, 3. So right there, right? And that's an interesting, bending lick if you haven't played with that before. And then, so that E to that F sharp, and then you're going to do that D to D sharp, and then grab B and end on F sharp. And that's the Clapton kind of cream era, part of that lick. It's definitely Clapton loved doing that. Of course, he picked that up from Albert King and Freddie King and players like that. So right there, once again, I just like that energy and the aggressive, kind of phrasing that Gary's putting in there, because it's very aggressive. Like I said earlier, he's picking hard, he's digging in and fretting hard and grabbing those notes with authority. And that's the hardest thing about that lick. It's not really that hard to play when you break it down, but it's that extra conviction and energy that he puts in there. And there's just something about that lick. Obviously, it's Gary Moore playing Freddie King and channeling a little bit of Clapton in there, so that's probably why that lick, grabbed me, where it was like, yeah, that's a cool one. But I just like the way he kind of put it all together, the way it flows, the energy, the phrasing, the bending, the whole thing. All right, that's going to wrap this episode of 3 for All with this look at 3 Gary Moore licks from 1990. Definitely a dynamite, legendary, great, sorely missed guitarist. Definitely Gary was one of those players where when he was active and busy on the scene, playing with all sorts of people, solo albums, Thin Lizzy, and all kinds of stuff. But then, watching these concerts, from the Montreux Jazz Festival and watching the different years and noticing like the little changes and stuff in his style, because definitely in 1990, he was still aggressively rocking out and shredding. And then by the end of those, Jazz Festival appearances, like in 2010, you could tell he kind of mellowed a little bit, played more kind of, authentic blues style and less of the aggressive shred stuff. But honestly, that's the era I really like of Gary's music. No offense to the blues, that came later, but I like that fire and energy, that he had like in the late 70s and throughout the 80s. He was just on fire. And definitely, what a legendary guitarist. And like I said, I started watching this footage and it just knocked my socks off. And I thought, yeah, let's hit some more Gary Moore because these licks were great and he was a legend. So anyway, leave some feedback and comments. Please subscribe to Layout Lessons, and I'll be back before you know with more content and material. Thank you.